how base should I start this off? Is it should I just kind of go over a little bit about how the main things you want to do on your weapon skills? So I'll start there. Yeah, just kind of get it a little basic here. So with your staff, your 2 on your staff is your blast. Use that for stealth fields or water fields. Go over that a bit later. Your 3 is swiftness. It ticks every 4 seconds on 5 people. You get a lot of swiftness from that if you stand in it. But you want to just toss that in front of your commander as you're running. Or if they say, hey, we're stacking swifts, you can slap that on your feet. Your 4 is in power. You'll hear the commander call for that pretty often before an engage. Give quite a bit of might. It's channeled. It does a lot of healing. You can use it sometimes in combat, but it also can get you killed because you can't move. The big thing for staff here is going to be your staff 5, your line of warding. Whenever you're tossing a bomb down at like 1200 range, 900 range, ranged bomb, you want to slap that line of warding exactly where the commander is telling everybody to put their bomb. CC on that bomb, and you'll get downs. And one person doing it isn't going to be enough. Everybody has to do it. It's not. So keep it for that. Or if you're trying to block people from going into, like you're in SMC, you're in inner or outer, I guess. And they're in the enemy team who owns SMC is going in and out of the portal. Well, if you want to block off that portal, if everybody drops their line in there, they're pretty screwed. So that should cover it really for there. I'll give an example of line of warding here in a bit, but mine's on cooldown. For your Mace shield here, the biggest thing is going to be your protection output and your aegis output. Your 3 and 4 are huge for this. Your 4 puts aegis on for a pretty long time compared to your mantra. It's the 5 seconds versus the 3, which is why I prefer to use that for a pre-aegis before we go into combat, along with my pre-stability with my elite skill. Another great tool to use if you're actually taking some mild fire, like some 111s, using the 3 will actually put 11 seconds of aegis on you and your group, which is fantastic. But you have to be hit for that to actually give boons, or else it does nothing.
They'll have to hit much harder.
So those are fantastic skills. Of course, regen from your 2. Just drop that while you're running. It's not that big, but it's enough to where, may as well just get some more boons. It stacks up just like your symbol on the staff would. Your 5 is a little bit interesting. So when you use it, it'll block things, block projectiles, and it'll also knock back the enemies. And if you cancel it early, it'll heal people. If you don't, it won't. So before it goes off, you're going to want to cancel it pretty much every time. That's kind of like a little skill cap thing, a little min-maxy bit you can do to get a little bit of an extra heal off. What do y'all think the main goal of Firebrand is? Just anybody want to say? Stand your ground? Okay. So like stability, right? Stab, heals. Yeah. Stability and heals, but also a key component that I think that a lot of people pass up and forget about is that we actually can do a lot of cleansing as well. So you have mantras. Your mantra of lore cleanses 2 conditions for 5 targets. So it's pretty essential to kind of mitigating some of the cleanses that the scrapper just can't get. Sometimes the scrapper just doesn't have their buttons up, or you're there waiting for their cleanse to occur from their gyros or something like that, and it just hasn't happened yet. There's a bunch of condies. You can just smack that mantra a couple times, or alternatively, which is my preferred method, opening up your book 2. I think that y'all are running the build that when you open up, is this correct? You're running the build that when you open up book 2, it'll cleanse, right? Y'all are running honor virtues.
Honor virtues, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Then yes. Then when you open up your book 2, your Virtue of Resolve, it will cleanse 2 conditions. Ooh, actually, 3 conditions from your party and 2 conditions from yourself in a 600 radius, which is pretty solid. And then you can hit your 5 immediately afterwards, which will buff all the healing you do by 20%, and it'll boon convert 2 boons on 5 allies. So any conditions they have, it'll just turn them into boons. So at chapter 5, it's pretty solid. I almost always immediately follow up a chapter 5 with either a 2 or a 3. 2, if there's more conditions to cleanse, I'm going to press 2 because that will cleanse conditions and it will heal for the amount of cleanses that are done. So more cleansing means more healing from that, which is fantastic. Your 4 is your big water field. When you drop that 4, say like dropping waters, and that lets everybody else know that they can take out their staff or whoever else has a blast, and they can blast that field to do extra healing, which is fantastic. Help keep your group alive in situations where you need some high sustain. The 3 I find to be fantastic because I love giving vigor. And 50% endurance regeneration is fantastic. More dodge rolls, less death. And it gives regen and swiftness, which is great. So I always slap down a 3 if I'm in this book. But the main things you're doing in this book are using your 5, your 2, and your 4. If you just need burst healing, you can just spam that 1 key, but I wouldn't recommend it unless it's dire straits. It's better just to use things like your Mantra of Solace to do a little bit of healing and provide more aegis while you're in that book to mitigate some damage. So coming out of that book, you have everybody's favorite book, your book 3. Book 3, usually the rotation you'll use is always hitting your 5 first. It's just a good skill. Gives 200 toughness to 5 people, which is fantastic, as well as giving protection, which is another 33% incoming damage decrease. So you're buffing everybody pretty good right there. And you give aegis and 1 stack of stability, which is key. A lot of people think that this book provides just a plethora of stability. It does if you spam that 1 skill, but the problem is if you look at that 1 skill, you can see that the stability it provides lasts for a second and a half, and that is all. Which is not fantastic, but still helpful in specific circumstances where you're just out of abilities. Your main things in this are going to be your 5, your resistance field with your 4, which stun breaks and provides resistance, which means that non-damaging conditions like roots or slows or chilled effects are not affecting them, which is fantastic. And I love using the 3 for reflex. You know, blocking some damage from being hit on us is always good. And your 2 is a taunt. I don't really use that 2 very much because I would rather just use another 3, 4, or 5. But you can use it when you're going into a melee push to get some interrupts. The taunt will interrupt people. So that's nice. And of course, your 1 skill, if there's no other options, you're completely out of stab, and someone's getting yanked around, or you're about to get yanked around, you need it, you can hit it. But I wouldn't recommend using it too often. Kind of a waste of a button. So that kind of covers those books. Your book 1 is pretty simple. 5 gives everybody a little bit of a damage buff. The damage you get off of your 5 is based off of your condition damage, but you're in full minstrels, so it's kind of ass. But it'll get you bags, so get some bags. Your 4 is a big fire field. Again, not much damage. The biggest thing for you in book 1 is your 3. Everybody come over here. Do we still have charges of our book 1?
Oh yeah.
Just pull them right there. It's pretty OP. It'll grab quite a few people and just put them right there. It has a 900 range, so you can use that when you're doing like a 900 range poke. They call for a bomb or they call for CC. Slap that down if you don't have, like, if your line of warding is on CD, then you can slap that down. Oh my god, I'm getting a phone call. I cannot answer that. All right. So that should cover it for there. This is the big thing where I think that it takes the most practice is to actually get good usage of your mantras. I apologize if I'm just rambling here. I hope this isn't just making y'all bored here.
I could outrun a centaur.
But the big thing here is your mantras. You remember that I said the aegis from your mantra of solace or your heal mantra only lasts for 3 seconds, but the ones from your shield last 5 or 11 seconds if you use the 3 and get hit. That's pretty important to remember when dealing with this kind of stuff, because if you're saying, okay, so we're at pre-combat right now, we're over here, come to me, and we're getting stealthed up, right? We're getting stealthed up. We're going to SMC and we're going up on that group over there on my purple marker. But we're gonna go ahead and empower here, and then we're gonna blast the stealth, and then we're gonna start moving. So we're about, I would say, you know, a healthy range. We're a little bit out of 1200 range right now. Well, at this point, what do we need to do? Well, we need to provide our group with stability by using our mantra of liberation. I usually use 1 or 2 stacks, depending on how many stacks are already up. And then I will take out my shield, and I'll give that 4. And that 4 usually will last long enough to where I'm getting about right here, where they can actually hit us. I'll still have my aegis up. And that's the big thing about that. Whenever I'm going through a group, though, that is exactly when I'm going to use my 5. Right about here, this is where you'll use your 5, when you're inside that big group, because they'll just go flying. You can knock 1 stack of stability off a couple people, or you might actually send some people flying, which will disrupt their group. It's pretty huge, especially if it's like mid-fight or something like that, or on a second hit. You can really do some damage with that. And that's also a great time on melee engages to use your 3, because there's going to be a lot of damage going out right there, and you'll almost always get a hit. All right. See, I'm boring some people.
Oh no, you're good.
I talked about a little bit about the mantra of lore and how it can, you know, mitigate some of the cleansing for your scrappers or your tempests if you have them, because, you know, they're not going to always have their skills up, just like you're not going to always have your skills up. So I usually won't use my mantra of lore if I'm in book 2, in the same way I won't use too many of my mantras of liberation when I'm in book 3, because I'm already getting both of those things from inside those books. So I don't want to use a bunch of cleansings on my mantra of lore if I can just hit an ability. I can just hit my 5 or my 2, because those are kind of better, right? Boon conversion for my 5 and healing effectiveness and healing per condition is kind of better than, you know, 7 seconds of regen and 2 cleanses, right? So that's something to keep in mind when you're in your books. But when you're in your book 3, that's a perfect time to use that mantra of lore. If you're not in a book at all, that's also a great time to use that. The main things that you need to watch out for is if your group is getting pulled or knocked around. Do y'all have like knockbacks over there and pulls and all that business?
I got some CC, yeah.
All right. Let's get some aegis on us. And let's have y'all do some CC on us. Nothing happens. You don't even need stab. Just aegis. It's kind of crazy. See, I just blocked that. I didn't even get hit. It's inside of the grab well. So that's a really big thing to note, is aegis can protect you in the same way stability can. Stability is great. I'm not saying it's bad. You want stability. But your aegis output is just as important. And it'll block damage. So get that out as much as you can. And that means using your mantra all the time. I mean, it has a really, really low cooldown here. Every charge takes 12 seconds. That's pretty low. That's actually lower than your shield skills. So you can get that off quite a bit in combat. Watching how many stacks you do is not really as important as it used to be, because you don't get any negatives from popping all the charges. So go ahead and be willy-nilly with those. Pop those a lot. Pop those a lot. Same with your shield skills. Don't be greedy. Pop them. Use them. If you can get value out of using your 3 or your 4 or your 5, use it. It doesn't matter. It'll come back up.
I have a quick question.
Go for it.
So, since all of our mantras like are forward, like it's in front of you, like where do we position ourselves in the group? Like
That's a fantastic question. Okay, let's see here. I'm gonna put him. I'm gonna say salad. Stand right there. So a good rule of thumb that I use is I stay about. You see how the arc of the mantra goes? I want it to be about in the middle of the widest part, or like the center of the arc, right? So you see where I am right now? That's about this. That's about midway between me and the end of the mantra that the commander is standing. Now that gives me opportunity to say like, okay, this feller over here is about that distance away, so they're still going to be hit by my mantra. So the widest point in my arc is actually going to be able to hit all of the party, but it's always going to be hitting the tag. So that's kind of where you want to be. So I don't know, you never want to be further than a dodge roll away, but it's good to be a little bit less than that too, because the tag moves in mysterious ways and will zip off sometimes. You may not even hear it, and they're just full turning and doing 1,000 miles per hour in the opposite direction, and you're just like, oh shit, if I had only been a dodge roll away, I would have lived. But that's a critical rule of thumb. But definitely keeping about midway through that mantra. And the best way I can describe where you should actually be standing that distance away is you always want to keep the tag in between you and the enemy group. So let's actually try that a little bit here. You want to stack on me real quick? All right. So our enemy group here, can y'all move like kind of this direction here? I'm going to kind of mirror y'all. So where would y'all be standing here? Kind of like right here, right? So right behind me, kind of moving forward. And sometimes even running a little bit ahead of me, assuming that I'm going to not like screw y'all. So yeah, exactly like that, right? So you're not too far away. You're just making sure that you're in between the enemy group. So say here, enemies stand right there for me, right there. So say they're standing right there, and I'm the commander, and we're doing a stealth bomb, and I'm gonna go around here, and we're gonna bomb them from the side. So what y'all want to do is y'all want to be about right here, right? That's where y'all want to be, kind of in relation to me. Of course, plus minus a little bit of a distance right there, right? But that's kind of your goal, is not really you don't want to be that close to these guys. You want to keep me in front of you. You want to definitely keep the tag in front of you at all times. You don't want to be ahead of me, really. You don't want to be way behind. You want to be close as you can get, while still being able to hit as many people as possible with these mantras. I have on to where I can see my party's health bars bigger than everybody else's in the group. I don't know if y'all have that on, but that's something I use all the time, because my mantras are going to prioritize my party, and I want to know where my party is, so that I'm not just kind of tossing my mantras into somebody else's group all the time, because there's going to be another Firebrand in that group. At least there should be. So I want to prioritize my group, because I'm the one who's supposed to be providing them with boons. So I'm going to look for those big health bars. All right, let's see here. Another thing that is really critical, if you don't use this, you should use party view. You can turn off grid view in the options menu when you click on like a little arrow next to the thing that looks like a tag. Uncheck view as grid. You'll actually be able to see your party's boons right there. So you can see if people have stab, which is pretty important for you. It's also important to note that when people have aegis or not. Rule of thumb for aegis supplying is if less than 3 people in my party of 5 are missing aegis, I'm clicking an aegis button. If I'm in the tags party and they don't have stab, no matter what, I'm either hitting aegis or stab. Even if everybody else has 15 stacks, I'm hitting one of those buttons. Note too that overstabbing is a thing. If I put all the stab I have on everybody and a bunch of aegis, well, one corrupt, and all those stacks of stab are gone instantly, like that. So what's the point of me spamming all these skills if they're just gonna take them away? So if I use my stand your ground, everybody has stab, I'm not gonna hit another Mantra of Liberation until that stab falls off. At least over half of the group, right? It's off with 2 people and I'm not in the tags party. I'll just get some Aegis out there and I won't waste a bunch of stab buttons because they have a longer cooldown.
I have another question.
Go for it.
When do you ever use the hollowed ground?
Okay, that's a good question. I actually don't run hollowed ground, but if you are running hollowed ground, I use Signet of Mercy usually. That's
really?
Just, yeah.
Okay.
You can get a quick res off on your allies if they die. You may hear on some of the reset nights that Puppet was commanding, or you might even hear like Awaken shouting this in some of the nights that we were running. Just Sig. He's referring to Signet of Mercy because you cast that on your ally and it'll full res them at a 900 range. And it's works a little bit like Illusion of Life, except they don't die after a certain amount of time if they haven't gotten a kill. They'll just be up. So that's pretty nice.
To Mercy.
Well, you can use Hollow Ground as well, which is really strong. Hollow Ground, it's great for when you're kind of going to, like you're moving to a specific spot. Like the commander says, hey, we're moving here to purple. You can slap that Hollow Ground kind of on the way to purple, so that it's getting you like right there. Exactly. So you're getting it all the way to purple and a little bit past it and a little bit before. So you're actually utilizing it for a good chunk of the amount of time that it's up.
So then my follow-up question is, sorry to interrupt. The following up question is, which do you prefer? If we're running as a group comped up, would you prefer the Hollowed Ground or would you prefer the Signet of Mercy?
I would probably use the Signet of Mercy because it's likely with the power meta currently that one person's just going to get that big revenant spike on top of their head and they're just going to die. They're going to go down pretty quick. If I see like a party member that's like out here and he's at like, I don't know, 10% health and it doesn't look like he's going to make it out, I'm going to sit there. I'm going to precast my Signet of Mercy on him, man. I'm going to make sure that as soon as he goes down, that Signet goes off. And you know what? If he doesn't go down, I can just cancel the Signet of Mercy by sheathing my weapon or swapping my weapon, dodge rolling, or hitting escape. Any of those options work. So huge thing with that one. And that gives you a little bit more of like a skill cappy thing, mid-maxy. I try to get those SIGs off, at least on my party especially, because I'm watching for those big health bars. If I see one of my party members out here on purple and they're going down, I'm precasting that Signet of Mercy. Another good option to run something if you want to put out more Aegis, you can always run Advance. It used to be called Retreat. Advance. And that's a really good thing to put out more Aegis. So, those are kind of the options that I would go with there. I would, Guardians don't use Retreat. It's super goofy. But whatever. Advance backwards. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
So that's kind of the basics. There's like priorities. I could sit here and talk to you for like an hour and a half, everybody individually here, about when to use your mantras, but that's super boring. Just know that when there's things to be cleansed, hit your mantra of lore. When you need stability, hit your mantra of liberation. This is also your mantra of liberation functions as a stun break for everybody it hits. So if people are going through bubbles, even though you can't provide stab, you can still stun break. So remember that. But
do you sit in your books until they're done?
Sometimes.
Or do you drop early?
Sometimes I don't. So that's a good question right there. That's a fantastic question. So it depends on which book I'm in. If I'm in book 1, no, I'm not going to use all the charges of that. What's the point of that? If we're getting into combat, my job isn't to try and do some damage.
I'm assuming you're going to use book 1, 3, and that's it.
Pretty much. I'm going to hit 5 to get bags for myself, and then I'm going to hit my 3, and that's pretty much it. Now, As for book 2 and book 3, that is a very difficult thing, right? There's times where you need to drop both, but you're usually going to stay in them for the whole time because you don't want to waste it. So in book 2, if I'm sitting there in book 2, we're not really getting any conditions on us, which is rare, and nobody's taking damage, which is also rare. I'm probably going to drop the book because there's no reason for me to be in there. And I'm just going to go into my Mace shield and start hitting my aegis skills and, you know, blocking some of any poke random crap that they're doing like that. Or I'm going to go into my staff and try to get some lines of warding off to, you know, CC the enemy a little bit. Maybe I'll even empower instead because, you know, if we're not taking much damage, we're probably not moving too much. So I can probably get empower off. You know, maybe I'll stack some swiftness, you know. There's other priorities other than, you know, sitting there in your book when there's nothing going on. As for your book 3, that one is, to me, I think this one's easier to drop than it is book 2, because if there's just a bunch of conditions going out and we're just getting fucked, yeah, that resistance field is good, but my Tome 2/5 has a much bigger range than this light field right here, and it also converts boons. So I'm probably, you know, if everybody's maxed out on conditions, I'm kind of like, you know, I may have like 4 charges on this book left. I'm going to get 1 more 5 off, and then I'm probably just going to spam my 1 ability. Get a few like preliminary stacks of stab off. Then I'll probably put a reflect down right before on the last one. If I can get off 1 more 5, sure. But otherwise, I'm just gonna dump it. You know, if that 5 isn't off and I got 1 more charge, you can either dump it in your 1 or just drop the book. It doesn't really matter because, like I said earlier, that 1 on that book 5 is great if you're getting hit right now. Otherwise, it's trash. It's commonplace for me to have to drop book 3 to open book 2 because we need healing more than I need a resistance field or a reflect. So that's pretty common for me. I hope, does that kind of answer the question there?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like, so like I feel like a pre-engage would be like we swift up, we channel up, and then we blast whatever. And you're saying to Mace Aegis go in. So would you say like after we do our Mace skills and say Shield 5 burst, would you say the next likely book we go into is 2 because we're eating an enemy bomb? We heal up.
That is dependent on what your party needs too. So that's where the like back and forth pull of like, are there cleanses going out, or is there just general damage going out? If there's just general damage going out, a lot of power damage, but there's not really any like huge CC bombs going on, stuff like that, I'm probably gonna go book 3, and I'm probably gonna slap a reflect on wherever we're going or wherever we're standing, and I don't want to take much damage. I can also get that 2 off if we're in the melee engage, and I can get some interrupts. And get that 5 off to prevent us from taking some damage, which is a pretty solid way to use your book 3, is just using those skills when we're going into a melee push. But I will say, yes, exactly. What does my party need right now? But I will say, though, that a general rule of thumb that I will, you know, kind of put a label on is I do go into book 2 once the Mace shield skills are down. And I've just slapped my line of warding in there. A good thing to do as well, once you've used those those Mace skills, before you actually get into combat and set the timer on your weapon swap so you can swap back into your Mace shield, you can hit that Aegis skill, then quickly swap to your staff, and you can actually use your 3 on the enemies to try and get rid of their Aegis. So little skill cap there too. You can also slap your 2 if it's not on CD from blasting the stealth, which is, you know, if you're not stealth bombing, you'll have it up. You can use that on your group too to heal, but I just like to get Aegis off with it a lot of the time. But yeah, 3 to get Aegis off if you're running up to the group and you're not, you know, and you can slap that 5 down and then swap back to your Mace, and you can use your 3 and your 5 then. And then once that's off, I try to get 1 more 4 off, and then I'll go into book 2. And if I'm not wanting to go into book 2 because there's not really enough to heal or enough cleanses to put out, I can just mitigate the cleanses with my Mantra of Lore in the meantime, use my stab skills, and just swap between my weapons a little bit. Maybe even go book 1 to try and get a yank. Why not? It's fun to get those.
I chose you.
So, question.
Go for it.
So the scrappers are the main healers of the group, from my
Yes.
understanding in this meta. We're just like a subsidiary for them. If they,
Endurance running
you know,
low.
we get pressured as a group. Okay.
So to tack onto that though, Scrappers got a big nerf to the amount they heal, which is why running like a more heal centric build and using your book 2 on the Firebrand or the heal brand is a little bit more important now, because yes, the Scrapper is going to be your main source of healing, but they just can't do it by themselves anymore, especially in these big spike damage meta. So it's crucial for you to do things like call out your big waters when you hit your book 2-4 and say, you know, big waters or waters on my feet, waters on my feet. You'll hear me say that sometimes. So that's pretty important. Yes, exactly. They do cleanse a lot more than they heal, but they can blast a bunch. So putting your waters down is important, and calling those waters is just as important as putting them down, because nobody's going to know to blast. Nobody's watching their feet looking for your water field. You got to say something.
I expect it's okay to speak over the commander then?
Yeah, if you're putting your waters down, just, I mean, you don't have to be like, hey, everybody, stop what you're doing. I'm doing my waters right now. See these waters? They're waters right there. Waters, 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 waters. Just say waters on my feet, and that's it. You know, you can just be just a simple statement. It doesn't have to be super interrupting, but during combat, I'm calling out cooldowns over the commander talking. I'm saying, you know, big stab in 15 seconds when my stand your ground is at 15 seconds. I'm saying low on stab when I don't have my stand your ground and I'm out of mantras, or I'm really low on mantras. Maybe I have 1 or 2 mantras. My book 3 is on cooldown. I don't have very much. I'm low on stab, commander. They need to know that stuff, because if they don't know that stuff, then they're going to push into combat assuming you got everything, and you're just going to get wiped because you didn't have any stab and everybody's dead. Yeah, you hear, yeah, exactly. So, yeah. You'll hear people call stealth up, or I got, you know, bubbles up. You'll hear spellbreakers say, oh, bubbles up, bubbles up. You'll hear, you know, your scrappers say like stealth is up. You're making similar calls. You know, you can call things like your book 3 timer, your book 2 timer, or your stand your ground are probably the only things that I would really call, unless you're just low on skills, and you can just say like low on skills. That's pretty important. So there are just 10 minutes till reset, and I don't want to bore y'all to death. Are there any more questions before I let y'all go? Sure. Yeah. Do we want to split evenly, or do we just want to have us be support and them be damage and live through it? All right, let's do it. All right, let's do this. Let's stack Swifts. Empower. All right, we're moving out. Put lines up here. Put lines here. Dodge through. Dodge through. Dodge through him again. Tricky. That's why you got to stay in that real close. I'm going to use my 5 here on my shield because I'm going to knock them back. They don't have stab, I know that, so we can do things like that, right? We're pretty much unkillable here. There's a bunch of Firebrands. Actually, let's just stand still. So right now, this is a good time. Let's see how many the amount of conditions that are going out. That's enough for me to go into book 2 right there. So Omega, right there, you got knocked away. So I know that you're actually getting hit with things that are going to knock you back and move you around. and I was in book 3, so that was a perfect time for me to use my book 3-1, which is rare, but in those specific scenarios, it's okay to use it.
I actually dodged back to the Aegis forward. Gotcha.
You see what I'm saying, though?
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah.
Time to do some.
So I hear a lot of times where, you know, stacking on our symbol fields on when the scrappers go to stealth really messes up stuff.
So yeah, that's pretty easy to combat. So that'll prioritize. It'll prioritize you hitting your fields before others now. And if you have a symbol right down on top of us while you know, we're getting stealth up, I mean, that field's pretty big. Here, stop real quick. The field that you're blasting for stealth is about this big. I mean, not quite that big, but you have a lot of room to blast. Like, put a symbol down on top of this resistance field real quick. You see all this area outside of it? You can blast that area too. So just use your two on your staff outside of your symbol, and you'll still be able to blast it.
I see. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no
Very
problem.
informative.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna leave y'all to go to reset here in about 8 minutes or so. So, you know, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I am more than willing to do one-on-one trainings or review footage. Just let me know. You know, I'm always available. I'm in the Discord, and you can message me through this disc as well. So,
And thanks a lot, Mope. Great training.
yeah.
Thanks, appreciate
Yeah,
it,
no
Mope.
problem, man. Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I did.
And I do have that recorded. So